Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Supatease video. We've got another update to the controversial and polarizing decision that Blizzard has made with regards to World of Warcraft's UI development, and that is the future of add-ons. What is going to be their inclusion as far as the baseline UI? Which add-ons are going to be turned on and off? This is an ongoing discussion, and it's important to keep tabs on it because I think it's going to have some big results for players that they're going to want to know about in the future. And there was an updated post here on Wowhead just a day ago, which is going to go into some details and start answering some questions and dissolving the mystery basically surrounding this issue, because I think there is still a lot of things being debated up in the air that needs to be clarified. So in today's post, we're going to be reviewing that update, talking about it, and discussing possible outcomes for the future based on the decisions that they're going to be making with regards to these add-on changes, because they could be massive. So let's get started here on the post. Following Blizzard's announcement, which I've made videos covering, and subsequent interviews regarding their intent to restrict some add-on functionality, the World of Warcraft UI development team reached out to the WoW UI dev Discord with a statement providing additional clarification on their timeline and scope with these changes. Now, communication with the community is going to be vital, right? I mean, based on the cooldown tracker that came out, and basically it was just kind of like a flop on release, and now they're trying to work on it. If they're not communicating, and exchanging ideas back and forth in regards to this, I do have serious concerns that the baseline UI that they are able to release will not suffice to the expectations of the player base. And if that ends up being the case, then I think that this overall could end up being a very bad thing for the community and could likely lead to driving core players away from the game, which would be absolutely devastating. I mean, imagine you're a core player, you log on, the UI that you've built up muscle memory and the ability to play on is just completely thrown away. And now you can no longer reach the level of performance that you were at. And now people are kicking you out of your groups, kicking you out of your guild. This is going to be a big spiraling event where you just can't perform the way that you could before. And we're already seeing issues like that in PvP when players can't hit certain rating thresholds that they were able to hit in previous seasons. You might have been 2,700 in this previous PvP season, but now you're only 2,100. What's going on? That's an MMR issue that is affecting the hierarchical division in your brain that lets you decide, am I good at the game still? And if it says no, then you get demotivated and you're likely to quit. And I think that this add-on change could have the same implication. So it's very important that, going down this route, that the baseline UI can still deliver that experience and players aren't being basically kicked out of their groups because their performance is now no longer up to par. We've created a brief summary of important points with the full statement as shared by the WeakAura's Twitter account quoted below. They have no target date for the changes, but there will be several months of advance notice before the time comes. So we're still pretty far ahead on the pipeline basically for the development of this situation. But we will be getting it. And I think knowing when that comes is going to be really important because everybody's going to have to make a big readjustment. I mean, I was just playing the Mists of Pandaria beta, and it's really tough to get add-ons set up on it properly. And man, the baseline UI, it's bad. Like it is bad. It's rough. Like that. If we had to go back to that UI where you couldn't even get like class colors on the nameplates or dots above their heads and things like that, like, oh my God, it will be rough. They want to give add-on devs as much time as possible to test changes, report issues, and provide feedback. Okay, so they are going to be working directly with add-on developers. I think that's important. That's going to be key. Getting the most nuanced, detailed information from the add-on devs and the players who use those add-ons is going to be of key importance. Just missing one little minutia of a detail on a UI setup could just mean loss of total functionality or value for the user. There is no intent to ban add-ons outright. I feel like that's a bit of a misleading post there because they have said that they will be completely removing combat enhancing add-ons. Add-ons that coordinate your group play for you automatically, track cooldowns. They said that. So I think that that's still happening. I think what they mean is UI customizations are not. So if you want to change the cosmetics of the frames or something like that, you can still do that. And I thought that their intent was like functionality as well. For users that have disabilities, that they would not be interacting with that. But they did say they would be just completely restricting it, which then leads into the question: if they're not going to ban them outright, how are they going to limit access? Is there going to be backdoor entryways for players to get in and still get those add-ons basically in the game, but now they've become like other banned forms, like almost like botting and third-party software, right? Is there going to be a way to backdoor and get that? And then some players are just going into the dark webs, and you're finding some players that are using weak auras still, but they're just going in, the back door as opposed to the front door. Like there's a lot of serious concerns with this, at least for me, that are lingering. They aim to minimize impact on accessibility add-ons as much as possible. Functionality that is no longer possible after the changes should be incorporated into the base game. Again, all great goals, great aims to go after. Can you actually hit it, though? Because if you don't, these guys that need functionality, that's going to be rough. Players based on their performance goes down dramatically. That's going to be rough. It could cause a lot more damage than good. Although I am somebody who is on the side of like pro add-on removal, so long as the baseline UI can actually serve, valuable information and provide a good experience. If the baseline UI can't, then I think banning the add-ons will end up being absolutely devastating. There will be a number of significant updates and additions to the UI, including a built-in damage meter, nameplate improvements, and a quote-unquote good portion of the most important combat information add-ons currently provide. Sounds great. Again, sounds great on paper. Need to see it in implementation. And obviously, whenever these patches come out, are they available for testing, I'll be getting on that right away. So always trying my best to be a good resource for you guys so you know what's going on moving into the future. Most of this functionality should ship at the same time as the add-on restrictions, if not sooner. See, add-on restrictions, no ban. That makes me think that there's going to be backdoor. That makes me think that some players, and we all know that there is at least a small amount of players that will do whatever it takes, whether it's queue syncing in Battlegrounds, which I think is still an apparent problem despite the threats Blizzard gave. So I don't know when Blizzard's going to enact that ban, but now it's like, okay, they're using third-party softwares to do that, and then they're coordinating these win trading events and rated content. Are they going to go through the back door to get weak auras back now and play like... I have serious concerns if that ends up being the case, because we know that the banning system at the moment, they're really good at banning people for chat messages, but as far as like cheating, it seems like that's kind of like it comes in like waves every once in a while. They do a giant bot ban wave, but it seems like the banning for cheating is not nearly as prevalent as it is for social reasons. Mythic rating has become increasingly reliant on add-ons, but these changes are not being made specifically because of the race to world first guilds. I wonder why they had to state that. Is it because race to world first guilds were going to get upset about it? I mean, everybody's kind of getting upset about it, right? You don't want to if you feel like that was the reason that you had a competitive advantage and you're losing it, that's going to be a very frustrating experience. But I kind of wonder why they included it like that. Because usually, you see from the mass community that it's like, we hate the sweats. We hate the top 1% players type of deal. So they could have won some like social points or something by saying that this is the reason. But I don't think that is the reason ultimately, right? The reason for removing add-ons is that the community has made an ongoing point that this is an annoying thing to have to go outside of the game to get these. Some players don't want to, and then they get kicked out of groups. The other one too is that if you want to port the game onto more platforms like console, they're not gonna be able to get add-ons on console. So you want that experience to be as good as possible in order to get more players. And obviously with Microsoft's acquisition of Blizzard, and Xbox and all that stuff, I can't imagine that they wouldn't want to if they can. They've got the one button macro coming in for just ordinary casual players, but could be a great accessibility feature to port it onto multiple platforms as well. So I don't think this is a change for PvP players. Also, I've seen some people talking about like that, like they're removing the add-ons finally because the PvP, those in the PvP players. I don't like, maybe that's part of it, but I don't think that's the main reason. I think it's just about all of this working together basically at the same time. Like all of this is in alignment and it makes sense. And it does, right? It makes sense. As long as you can deliver a good baseline UI, it does make sense. Add-ons are currently being used to analyze and solve combat and coordination mechanics better and faster than an unassisted player, resulting in a major disadvantage and exclusion for players unwilling to install, set up, and maintain them. Yes, they've been a crutch. And what's going to happen after the players who have gotten accustomed to those crutches, you take them away? They're going to fall down because they've been playing their entire life with crutches. So when you take those crutches away, they're going to fall on their face. And when you fall on your face like that, that's not. This is why I'm saying like there is some risk to consider with this, because it could backfire. Blizzard's intent is to level the playing field and make the game more approachable for all players by reining in these capabilities while building up baseline functionality with default UI, which is good. I think a player should be able to log in the game. Game gives them a good, training course, catches them up to speed, gives them a bit of experience, so that now, all right, I'm ready to go, and I can do some more higher level difficulty content or group content in the game. Everyone should want their game to be like that, right? You wouldn't want their game to just be like, oh, there you go. Yeah, you don't know what to do? I don't care. Just make it up. I mean, in a game that's as developed as World of Warcraft, you need like catch-up systems and skill development systems, because everybody else is so advanced, and a lot of those advanced players may not be willing to take on somebody that has absolutely zero experience. Some will, right? Some base their entire communities like that. They do exist, but others don't. They want to find people of equal skill because they want their time to be used effectively, right? And they're not valuing helping somebody else learn how to play, but some people do derive value from that. Should everyone be forced to help people learn how to play the game? That'd be an interesting social debate. Let me know in the comments down below. Do you think that players should have to play with new players and bring them into the reins, despite, likely you're going to be losing a lot, failing keys, whatever it may be, in order to develop their ability at the game? Or should that be only just, a free decision for players who want to do that and foster that type of community, versus players who maybe only want to play with equally skilled players? There will be substantial changes to combat and encounter design to accompany these add-on changes. See, this is another important part, is that they've got to directly downscale the level of difficulty, because if they maintain the level of difficulty without the add-ons, you remove the crutches, they're going to be falling face first into a bandsaw, and players will quit if that happens. They will absolutely quit if that happens. What does that mean? They might overshoot the difficulty and nerf it too much, and maybe it's a joke and it's really easy. This is going to be a really tough decision, because if you do that, everyone's going to meme on the game. People might quit because they just beat all the content in the game immediately. But again, if you tune it too hard and they fall face first into a bandsaw of their crutches, they're going to quit because it's too frustrating. It's too difficult. And that's why tuning, adequate time for appropriate tuning is so important. First impressions matter, right? Especially for the release of a new expansion, which is, I think their intent with this is to time it in that time frame, although we don't have an exact date. Maybe it's not. Maybe this is might even be so far into the future as to be with the Titan expansion. We don't know. The goal is to make class mechanics more approachable and easier to understand without add-ons. That is a great goal. I mean, I can applaud that. Like, that is exactly what should be happening. We should not be needing giant boxes with foghorns popping up to understand that something is dangerous, right? I think the most recent change in Mythic Plus with the new swirlies, which are now just defined lines on the ground with circles, was a great improvement to making it, okay, this is a danger zone. Don't stand in that. I think for diminishing returns that we need a color system as well, where it's, certain tooltips share a colored border. So for example, polymorph is an incapacitating diminishing return. You don't know that, right? Nobody would know that, but its icon should have a blue border. And then wherever they decide to put their diminishing return tracker in the game UI, whether it's on monsters or it's on players, should show a blue squared icon next to that target. And then you can align that with your class's tooltips to be like, oh, I have blue squared icons. So if that monster has a blue square icon on it, it's diminishing return, which means if I use my blue square icon on it, it's going to be half duration or a quarter duration on the target, because diminishing returns are an entirely invisible system. And if you've never been in the game to understand it, because that's what you'd need to understand it, it's not obvious, right? Like, why does a blind DR fear? If you're just sitting there and you never knew what the abilities were, you just, I don't know, you'd be kind of confused in that sense. So something that makes diminishing returns more universally understandable, that's available in the game. So when you highlight over it, it can be like, your polymorph is an incapacitating crowd control. It shares diminishing returns with other incapacitating crowd controls that will have this blue border. Clear and identifiable things in the game that you can see and understand, so that obviously you're able to play the game more effectively. They want WoW to remain challenging, but less about managing the subtleties of class mechanics and more about communication with players and interacting with encounters. That to me sounds like they want it to be more about cooldown trading and not about your class's rotation. This seems really generic. This could be interpreted in multiple ways, and it seems kind of dangerous because I don't know if the game should be more than just only cooldown trading. I feel like healers' value in PvE or PvP has gone down or been obscured because it's just cooldowns for them. They're just managing cooldowns, whether they're telling their partner to use something to survive a mechanic or a player's cooldowns. It's just cooldown managing. But then the core rotation, your healing rotation in between, has been kind of trivialized. So it's like you make a major decision maybe every 30 seconds, a minute and a half, 2 minutes. You make a major decision in exchange or trade of your team's abilities versus the enemy team's abilities. And then the in-betweens is not as important, not as impactful. Then it basically means that you need to understand those, and those are the only things that matter. And I don't know if that's good. I think it's good to have some cooldown trading, but cooldown trading as the only thing, which is what I'm interpreting this as, managing the subtleties of your class mechanics. Or are they talking about chaining interrupts together? Because that was something that has been prevalent in Mythic Plus, right? Where you need to have perfect AoE interrupts and stuns and crowd controls. If one cast goes off, your entire group dies. I think they want to be removing that. Maybe they're talking about that as the subtleties of class mechanics. There's a lot of vagueness in this, and the vagueness is making this even more dangerous. This is a massive undertaking. On the front, as someone who's pro no add-ons, it's like, oh, this is good. Blizzard's making the right move. They listened to the community. They talked about wanting to remove add-ons for a long time. It'll allow them possibly to cross-platform, which could get more players into the game, which is an opportunity WoW hasn't had, which is exactly an opportunity that it needs to have. And it should be a good overall experience. But it comes with a lot of mystery and vagueness, and that needs clarity moving forward, and could be disastrous. Not saying that's not a worthy goal to go after. It's just that it could be disastrous. They need to take everything into consideration and constantly relay communication, which does seem to be what they're doing, right? With this giant post that they did interacting with the UI dev community as far as add-ons and weak ores as well. So likely we got good trajectory here, but we got to keep our eyes on this, because this could maybe be the turning point that brings WoW back into its, maybe we would call it the third era or something like that. Legion second era, and this is possibly third era, depending on how successful this is, or just demolish it and burn it down into flames. But let me know your thoughts on add-ons. Are you pro add-ons? Are you no add-ons? Let me know in the comments down below if you think that this ultimately maybe doesn't even matter. Maybe this, we get a great baseline UI, add-ons are out of the mix, and who knows, maybe the sub numbers don't randomly skyrocket into the other direction. Maybe we're all wrong with that interpretation of the current situation. Is it fleeting? Well, we'll have to wait and see. But other than that, thank you guys for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed the discussion, and I will see you in the next one.